right now.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you as I love to do every weekday over the airwaves of ESPN Radio and ESPN News, 250-plus markets across the United States of America. Check your AM, FM listing nearest you, plus ESPN Radio on Sirius XM Channel 80, plus ESPN Radio simulcast over the live national television airwaves of ESPN News. Number to call up as always is 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. Time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. Lots and lots and lots of stuff to get into today. No question about that. Looking forward to talking about today's show because I was at that Philadelphia-Boston Celtics game last night, watching Joel Embiid drop 37 and 22. Watching Kyrie Irving put on a show as well, but not when it counted most. Lots of stuff going on in the NBA. James Harden absolutely went berserk last night against Memphis, dropping 57, albeit in a loss. Of course, there is when you look at it and you look at Oklahoma City and the way that they're struggling, there's something to look at in regards to that. So definitely we'll discuss that as well. There's some NFL stuff going on, really dissecting even more and more what's happened in Pittsburgh with Big Ben Roethlisberger and how he is looking these days. I'll tell you what's on my mind for the particular moment in time, though. As the NFL draft approaches, I'm getting very, very, very concerned with the kind of stuff that I'm hearing. I really am. I'm getting very concerned about it because when I look at the New York Giants and I'm looking at these workouts and the way that folks have been raving about the workouts that Dwayne Haskins has put forth, I don't understand for the life of me how the Giants are acting like they don't care if they get him or not. Now, they did show up at his pro day. Had executives there, had Coach Pat Shermer there. There's no doubt about it. It could all be a smokescreen. They could be lying through their stinking teeth. But I got to tell you something. If you're the New York Giants, you got to be prepared to move up. I would hope that one of those picks that you acquired in return for Odell Beckham Jr., you would utilize to get a quarterback. Giants have got to draft a quarterback. It's just that simple. I don't even see how this is even an issue. When I look at the New York Giants, what the hell are you going to do? See, to me, you've got Oakland at the 4th pick. You've got Tampa at the 5th pick. It wouldn't shock me at all if either of them decided that, you know what? I'm going to take me Dwayne Haskins. A matter of fact, I would sit up here and tell you right now, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers should be first on the list. You got a top 5 pick. You're clearly not sold on Jameis Winston, no matter what you've been bloviating about. And if that's the situation, I would say it's advisable for you to move on. Maybe not from Jameis Winston this year, given an opportunity to show himself, but how do you lose drafting a top-tier quarterback? At the very least, it's going to be an asset for you. At the very least. But if you're the New York Giants, all of this stuff about Eli Manning can still play, Eli Manning can still do this, Eli Manning's got years left in him. Eli Manning couldn't move when he was 30. How the hell you think he's going to do at age 37? So if Eli Manning couldn't move and he's a stationary target, and clearly the athletes going up against him on the defensive side of the ball are bigger, are stronger, are faster, and obviously more mobile than ever before, why in the hell would you want a stationary target approaching age 40 in Eli Manning that's missed the playoffs 6 times in the last 7 years? Why would you do that? It makes absolutely positively no sense. And I'm just looking at some of these quarterbacks that are scheduled to be available. You got this kid Daniel Jones out of Duke. You got Will Gray out of West Virginia. You got Ryan Finley out of North Carolina State. You got Haskins out of Ohio State. You got Kyle Murray out of Oklahoma. You got Drew Lock out of Missouri. I just don't know. I don't know how we could be having a conversation about the Giants not taking a quarterback. I don't know how we could be having that conversation. Haskins is a New Jersey native. I don't understand this. Good size, tremendous arm strength. I was a fool thinking he was a runner because he ran 15 times against Purdue, and other than him and the offense spread out against Michigan State, didn't really watch much of him last season. Till I went back to the tapes and watched the film, and I'm like, damn. Cats like Chris Carter and others were absolutely right. This brother can throw the football. And for those of you wondering who the hell am I talking about, Chris Carter, even though he's on Fox, he's one of my good friends in this industry. As man speaks football, I listen, period. And I've known him for many, many years. He's a friend and a brother. That's why I listen to him. Even though we have outstanding analysts here at ESPN, from Louis Riddick on down, Ryan Clark, Teddy Bruschi, and so many others. But Chris Carter's my brother. To be quite honest with you, I wish he was still here. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. I'm just saying, if you're Oakland, I don't care what John Gruden has been saying. Mike Mayock as well. It wouldn't shock me at all if they decided to take Haskins. Wouldn't shock me a little bit. Tampa, I think it's a no-brainer for them to take Haskins. And if you're the New York Giants and you feel a need to move up to ensure that you grab Haskins, because he's not going to be grabbed by the 49ers at number 2 because they've got Garoppolo. He's not going to be grabbed by the Jets at number 3 because they've got Sam Darnold. I'm sorry. I would move up. I'd do what it took. And if that means me getting hosed in some people's eyes, whatever. I'm telling you, if I'm the New York Giants, I've got to draft a quarterback. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. NCAA tournament has started, for those of you who may not know. All right? Right now on TV, on CBS, it's halftime of a game between Minnesota and Louisville in the first round of the NCAA tournament. Not Rick Pitino, but his son, Richard Pitino, is the coach of the Minnesota Golden Gophers. Obviously, guys, basketball analysts extraordinaires like Jay Billis abhorred the fact that Louisville, a team once coached by Rick Pitino, and we all know what happened with him, the NCAA tournament committee, selection committee rather, you're going to have his son playing his dad's former program. Really? That's just bringing attention to it. Nevertheless, Minnesota's been making some shots, making some threes. They've got some decent players on their squad. It's the first time I've ever seen them. I'm just watching it right now. By the way, LSU, 26-6 this year, is up on Yale, 27-21 in the first round of this NCAA tournament. I'm looking at CBS right now, the TNT crew, Barkley, Kenny Smith, along with the great, phenomenal Ernie Johnson, all on at halftime with my brother Clark Kellogg, synonymous with college basketball, forever and always, by the way. I got my brackets here. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you right now where I'm at with this. I actually got Minnesota winning this game against LSU. I'm looking at a team like Belmont, but I think they'll lose to Maryland. I'm talking about the East region now. Of course, I've got Duke coming out of there. I don't like the fact that Michigan State is the number 2 seed. They should have been a number 1 seed. I know Louisville, a number 7 seed right now, is going up against Minnesota. I'm just prejudiced against Louisville. Ever since I saw them a couple of months ago, their guards absolutely panic. They couldn't dribble, they couldn't pass, they couldn't shoot. They looked scared like a bunch of petrified puppies against Zion and Duke after being up 21-22 points a few weeks ago. And when y'all see guard play that is that shaky, I am not going with you. I'm not doing it. That's how I feel about Louisville. But just going through these brackets, okay? Let me tell you something. Duke, I got VCU winning. Liberty beating Mississippi State. Virginia Tech could be a sleeper. Minnesota, Michigan State. But essentially, I got Duke coming out of the East region. I got them meeting Michigan State in the Elite Eight and Duke coming to the Final Four. I got Gonzaga meeting Michigan in the West in the Elite Eight, with Gonzaga coming out of the West region to get to the Final Four. Although I have Syracuse, by the way, getting to the second round before losing to Gonzaga. The game of the day that I'm waiting for is in the West region. It's Marquette as a number 5 seed versus Murray State. That game's going to be on live at 4:30. That's that kid Marcus Howard out of Marquette, who's dropped over 45 points, or at least 45 points on 3 separate occasions this year, going against Ja Morant out of Murray State. I like the kid Ja Morant. He's got obviously higher upside than Marcus Howard. And I think that Ja Morant is going to end up being a top 5, potentially a top 3 pick in the NBA draft. I like this kid. I'm interested in seeing how Marcus Howard look going up against one another this afternoon. I can't wait for that matchup. That's the game I'm waiting for. Let me just be clear. But I see other teams in this region. Sleepers, potentially Buffalo, Florida, but I'm still going with Michigan and Gonzaga in the Elite Eight, and I'm going with Gonzaga. Transitioning over to the Midwest region, North Carolina is your number 1 seed. Kentucky's your number 2 seed. Kansas is your number 4 seed. Houston is your number 3 seed. I got Houston advancing to the Sweet 16. Okay. Kentucky will be out of there. Houston will be out there. And I think Kentucky takes out Houston. That's what I think is going to happen. I'm looking at North Carolina. And they'll probably meet Auburn in the Elite, in the Sweet 16. I think they beat them. And then it's North Carolina versus Kentucky. And I think North Carolina goes to the Final Four. Looking at this bracket, South region, Virginia's your number 1 seed. I have no faith in Virginia's offense. 0. No faith in their offense. 0. But I think they'll make the Sweet 16 this year. That's what I think. I really, really do. I think they'll make the Sweet 16. I think it'll be against Oregon. And Oregon will lose to Virginia. And Virginia will make it to the Elite Eight. I look at the rest of the bracket in the South. I see Villanova beating St. Mary's. I see Purdue beating Old Dominion. Tennessee, obviously. But I got Tennessee meeting Villanova in the Sweet 16. I got Tennessee beating Villanova. I got Virginia beating Oregon. And I think that Tennessee is going to beat Virginia. And Tennessee is going to get to the Final Four. That's what I believe. I think Tennessee's going to beat Virginia to get to the Final Four. And so my Final Four bracket is Tennessee North Carolina, Gonzaga, and Duke. I got 3 number ones and a number 2 going to the Final Four. I've got Tennessee losing to North Carolina in the Elite Eight. I've got Duke beating Gonzaga. We're going to have an all-ACC final. Duke versus North Carolina, the greatest rivalry in the history of sports as far as I'm concerned. Might be even better than Michigan, Ohio State. But in the end, it comes down to this. I think Carolina can make shots. I think Zion is a monster, but I think Zion and Duke struggle with their perimeter shooting from time to time, and that's going to be the thing that hurts them. I'm picking North Carolina to beat Duke to cut down the nets courtesy of winning the national championship. That's what I'm going with. That's what I believe. That's how I feel about it. But I got Tennessee going to the Final Four and Gonzaga. And by the way, I wouldn't sleep on Gonzaga either. I really, really wouldn't. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. What are the other things I want to get into? I was in Philly last night, and I watched the Philadelphia 76ers go up against the Boston Celtics, and I got to tell y'all something, man. First of all, there's something special brewing as you watch Philly-Boston. It's not quite Dr. J. Julius Irvin with Darryl Dawkins, Caldwell Jones, Bobby Jones, and the crew going up against Bird and McHale and Parrish and all of these guys. It's not quite that, ladies and gentlemen, but it's getting there. When you see this crowd go absolutely positively berserk when Philadelphia is going up against these boys, it's something to behold. I got to tell y'all that. It's something to behold. This is some special stuff to watch. Believe me when I tell you. The crowd was rabid. They was fired up. Them big-time shots by Jimmy Butler in the fourth quarter meant everything. And the crowd roared like it did. It's a great, great, great home stand. Home crowd meaning. That's what I'm saying about Philadelphia. It's not an easy place to go and play and win a basketball game. But I got to tell you, if the Philadelphia 76ers and the Boston Celtics were to meet in the playoffs today, I would go with Boston. Now, keep in mind, Boston had beat them 3 straight in the regular season before last night. Keep in mind that Boston's the same team that took them out last year in the postseason. Keep in mind that even though the 76ers have Jimmy Butler, and even though they have Tobias Harris, and even though they have Joel Embiid, at the end of the day, Boston still can be their kryptonite. They can make shots. They have a closer. They've got young thoroughbreds who know how to put the ball in the hole when necessary. They're still trying to figure things out. They're not a finished product. But I'm telling you right now, the Boston Celtics, I'm not sleeping on them. And see, after the game, I'm talking to Kyrie last night, and Kyrie is so brilliant. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't take his comments about the world is really flat seriously. No, I'm not judging him for that. I'm talking about basketball. The brother knows his basketball. And speaking with the rest of those guys and talking with Jason Tatum and those guys, it's like they'll figure it out. But Kyrie Irving did make a very, very astute point that I need to share with y'all that I don't think is bogus at all. Last year, when you look at the Boston Celtics and you want to ask what's the problem with them now, being 14 games over 500, losing a few games that they've lost recently, I got it. Let me tell you something. When you look at them, and Kyrie breaks down, look, last year we were playing with house money. We could just go out there and ball. I was down. Gordon Hayward is down. You know what? You're going out there and you're just playing. But when expectations are saddled on you because everybody looks at our roster and know what our capabilities are, all of a sudden you start thinking more instead of playing. And that's where it becomes a challenge. Veterans like Gordon Hayward, Kyrie Irving to a lesser degree have been there. The young guys have not. Yes, they may have been in the playoffs. And yes, they may have went to within one game of the NBA Finals. But the thing about them is that they were playing with house money. They had absolutely positively nothing to lose because nobody expected anything from them without Kyrie Irving or Gordon Hayward. But now we're both scheduled to be ready for the playoffs. You got to be ready for them. And guess who's having the most difficult time with it at times? Boston. So I think it's something to be concerned about. I think it's something to be alerted about. All those things are true. But in the end, when you have the Sixers and their play calling being orchestrated by Ben Simmons, who I love, by the way, who is just big time in every way, the flip side to it is that he has no jump shot. He doesn't even attempt one. And if you can lay off of him, that's a problem. Brett Brown and those guys put him on baseline, focus on putbacks and all of that other stuff. That's true. But the reality is that he would be a bigger threat, and the Sixers would be a bigger threat if Ben Simmons had a jump shot. Because he's got everything else. That's what they're saying. That's what they're asking you to think about. And I don't blame them, because in the end, here's what it comes down to. Tobias Harris and Jimmy Butler, I like. They can ball and they're rough riders. They got a lot of heart. And Joel Embiid ain't scared of anybody. I'll play sound from Joel Embiid when we come out of commercial break to show you how he ain't scared of anybody. But the flip side to it is that going to be enough? I don't know the answer to that question. But Boston thinks they do. And their answer is hell no. It won't be enough against us. As Terry Rozier said, yeah, you saw the confetti coming down. In other words, he's laughing at them making such a big deal over a regular season game. These are all the things that we have to think about. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. That was Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage in America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. We'll get to your calls and more in a minute on all of this NBA stuff, some NFL stuff involving Haskins and the Giants, or where should Haskins go? New York, Oakland, Tampa, you name it. It's worthy of a discussion. And we'll see where y'all go with it. 888-SAY-ESPN. You listen live, Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News, by the way. If you haven't tried the delicious, high-quality meat from ButcherBox, you're going to be blown away. ButcherBox brings you the meat the way it's meant to be so you can get all of the benefits you're supposed to get. Unbelievable flavor and unparalleled nutrition. Now, how the hell can you beat that? They work closely with the best farms and companies committed to raising animals humanely. From grass-fed beef to free-range organic chicken to wild-caught sockeye salmon from Bristol Bay, Alaska. ButcherBox has over 20 different cuts of meat to choose from, with customizable boxes and a variety of other options to choose from. And ButcherBox comes at an affordable price, too, with free shipping. You can get a month's worth of the best-tasting meat from ButcherBox for less than $6 a month. Ladies and gentlemen, that's less than $6 a month. You spend more than that on a glass of wine. Come on now. You hear what I'm telling you. You know how special this offer is. ButcherBox is offering my listeners ground beef, free ground beef for the life of your subscription, and $20 off your first box when you sign up at butcherbox.com/Stephen A. Don't miss out on this special offer at butcherbox.com/Stephen A. That's butcherbox.com/Stephen A. That's with a PH, not a V. 888-SAY-ESPN. Don't touch that dial. I'll be right back. It's Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News.
Learn what affects your credit scores and what you can do to improve them with Credit Karma. Maybe you need to dispute an error on your credit report, or you're paying too much interest. Credit Karma can help with that. Visit creditkarma.com or download the app now. That's creditkarma.com.
Can play. D'Angelo Russell can play. Allen can play. I mean, these brothers ain't no joke. You ain't even bring up Dinwiddie, who got the contract extension and well-deserved.
Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on the Stephen A. Smith Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, and you can always get in touch with the show through the 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed.
Welcome back to Stephen A. Smith Show. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Number to call as always is 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. The Stephen A. Smith Show is being brought to you by Credit Karma. Get your truly free credit scores and free credit monitoring from Credit Karma today. That's Credit Karma, K-A-R-M-A. Get knowing. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Let's get to the phones. Lots of stuff to get into today. Oh, by the way, before I say this, let me make sure I clarify my position, particularly the Sixers fans everywhere. This morning, I said on national television, I'm going to say it again, because I don't run from nothing. Ben Simmons is going to cost the Philadelphia 76ers a title. Ben Simmons is not good. He's great. He's phenomenal. In practically I love his heart. I love his game, his fearlessness, his ball handling skills, his passing skills. The brother is special. There's one thing that Ben Simmons is lacking, and it is a jump shot. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm not talking about the kind you miss. I'm talking about this brother won't even take them. You cannot be on the basketball court in playoff competition against the Boston Celtics and the Toronto Raptors and have a guy of that stature being absolutely no threat from the perimeter whatsoever, considering how often he has to handle the ball. Now, I know Jimmy Butler is going to do his thing in the fourth quarter, and he's going to have ball handling and playmaking responsibilities along with Tobias Harris, and to a lesser degree, Ben Simmons. He'll be around the basket, roaming the baseline, looking for putbacks. I get it. But against those teams, I don't believe that's going to be good enough. That's just my personal opinion. If Ben Simmons develops a jump shot, Philadelphia 76ers is going to win a few titles. With Joel Embiid, with Ben Simmons, assuming that Tobias Harris, Jimmy Butler still look the way that they look, I can't say enough about the job that Elton Brand and Sixers brass have done in acquiring Butler and Tobias Harris. But somebody's got to help Ben Simmons develop a jump shot. And Jimmy Butler and them are on him to take it. They're like, damn it, shoot it. Shoot it. You ain't going to get any better if you don't shoot. And I agree with him. I agree with him. By the way, I told you my brackets. And if I made any mistakes anywhere, it would be nothing new. I make mistakes from time to time. I know social media and everybody try to make a big deal out of it. I appreciate y'all listening. And I thank y'all for spelling my name right, too. It's with a PH, not a V. I'm on the air live for 4 hours a day. Y'all expect me to be perfect about every damn thing. Please, kiss off. Anyway, let's go with the phones. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. Oh, by the way, I needed to transition to a different subject other than the NCAA tournament. As a matter of fact, before I do that, I'll get to this point right here. Let's go to Eric. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me, E. How are you?
Stephen A., what's going on, man? How you doing?
Man, you better get me off that damn speakerphone and speak to my listeners. What's wrong with you? Pick up the phone.
Man, my bad. I got you. Give me 1 second. I got you.
Pick up the phone. One. There you go. Yeah, you was about to get a dial tone. What's the matter with you?
Yeah, I got you.
Come on, bro.
I got you.
All right, go ahead.
All right. So, Stephen A., I don't know, man. I got to disagree with you with the Sixers in Boston.
Okay, go ahead.
I honestly think, man, the Sixers could take them to 7, or I think they could knock them out, man.
Hold it. I didn't say they couldn't take them to 7. I didn't say that.
All right. Yep. But what I'm saying is if Ben Simmons had that jumper, I think they would have enough to give him a gentleman's sweep. That's how good I think the Sixers are. But because he doesn't have that jumper, but he has those bevy of shooters around him, I think they could get him in 7.
You know what? Let me correct that. The Sixers could take them in 7. Okay? Yeah. That's why Boston would beat them in 6.
Okay. All right. You got
In
that.
other words, the Sixers don't want to come back to Wells Fargo. I'm sorry, the Celtics don't want to have to come back to Wells Fargo for a Game 7. I agree with you there.
That's what I'm saying.
But I think Boston could steal one early in Philly and then protect their home court and close them out in 6.
Right. I can see that.
All right.
Another thing, Stephen A., with the college ball, man.
Yep.
I know the game you're waiting to see.
Oh, yes.
4:30, Murray State.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Marquette. I think John Morant, he's going to have a crazy game, Stephen A.
I think he's going to blow up. I think he's dropping 30 today. I think he's dropping 30.
Definitely. Hey, Stephen A., a couple of my brackets, I got him going as far as to the Elite Eight, Stephen A. I think he's got that kind of talent.
Yep. Got it. Appreciate the call, man. Thank you so much. I think John Morant's big time. Marcus Howard averaged 25 a game. But he's not John Morant. From Morrissey. He's not that dude. I don't think so. Maybe I'll find out more. It's not like I watched him all the time. So we'll find out today. But he's not John Morant. Not to me. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. I wanted to transition to another subject before I because I want to get into this and I wanted to have some time on the show to hear from y'all about this. Le'Veon Bell had some words, was being interviewed by Sports Illustrated and said a few things about Big Ben Roethlisberger. Let me say this. I personally like Le'Veon Bell. He was in that locker room. I'm not disputing the veracity of anything he said. But I just thought his comments about Big Ben, they weren't vicious or malicious or anything like that. He was answering a direct question. Like my man Max said on First Take this morning. I get that. But just because something is truthful don't mean you got to say stuff all the time. There's a lot of truth that I could spew to y'all all day, every day. But damn it, I ain't going to say everything. Because certain things are just not appropriate. Big Ben may be a problem. Is he the problem in Pittsburgh? No. Antonio Brown wanted his money, and ultimately he wanted out and was looking to be disruptive in order to get what he wanted, and he pulled it off. Le'Veon Bell sat out the season, was trying to create a new category for running backs or multi-purpose running backs to be paid. He was unsuccessful in that venture, but still got some money. $35 million guaranteed. But he didn't achieve what he was out to achieve. I understand that Big Ben Roethlisberger is a quarterback. Big Ben Roethlisberger is privileged by the Pittsburgh Steelers. Big Ben Roethlisberger has made some mistakes in terms of his leadership ability and how he's dealt with guys. But I just don't think if you Le'Veon Bell, you needed to be saying that to Sports Illustrated. You didn't sit out because of Big Ben Roethlisberger. You sat out because of money. If the Steelers hadn't franchised you and they gave you a long-term deal, you wouldn't have said a damn thing about Big Ben Roethlisberger. Antonio Brown would have complained no matter what, money or no money, because he had that kind of relationship with Big Ben where, like Le'Veon Bell pointed out, sometimes Big Ben would get upset and not throw the ball to him. So chances are Antonio Brown would have had a problem with Big Ben whether he was getting paid or not. But that clearly wasn't the case with Le'Veon Bell. You still had 321 carries. You still had 85 receptions. Big Ben Roethlisberger had nothing to do with Le'Veon Bell's situation. Nothing. So why speak on him? Now, I like Le'Veon Bell. Like I said, I think he's one of the best in the game. But we all know there's been a past where you've missed games because of violations of the league's policy or injuries. We know this. What if Big Ben Roethlisberger started talking about you? See, these are the kind of things that you got to be concerned about. Can't throw stones when you live in glass houses. It wasn't malicious or anything like that, but I would say it was just unnecessary. He's moved on. He could have moved on. Maybe he was coming to the defense of Antonio Brown, but he didn't have to go there. That's all I'm saying. 888-SAY-ESPN. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. You know what never goes out of style? Surprising a friend or loved one with a buy one, get one free multicolored rose bouquets for $29.99 from 1-800-Flowers.com. To order, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. Back with your calls and more in a minute.
Craving even more of Stephen A?
Him of all people.
For around-the-clock access to the man?
I'm Stephen A.
You can follow him on Twitter and Instagram at Stephen A. Smith and on Facebook at Stephen A.
Need game tickets? Find your seats at Vivid Seats.
Now, as I reported weeks ago, Doc Rivers had the right to get out of his contract after this season if he wanted to. Even though he had recently re-upped with them, he had an out after the season. He could have left. But Doc Rivers, as far as I'm concerned, outside of the brilliant coaching job that now has him as one of the top 3 Coach of the Year candidates in the NBA, as far as I'm concerned. No CP3, no Blake Griffin, no DeAndre Jordan, but he's in the playoffs at the players would begin today. And the Clippers are about 10 or 11 games over 500. What a job by Doc Rivers. What a job. Patrick Beverley, Danilo Gallinari, Shea Alexander. These are the people that he has. He's 10, 11 games over 500. What a sensational job by Doc Rivers. But another brilliant move he made. All that noise percolated about the Lakers. Clippers came, re-upped him, made sure there wasn't no possibility he was leaving for the Lakers. He's a Clipper for years to come. And oh, by the way, he's got the better team. Who, by the way, has more cap space than the Lakers to offer a free agent or 2 this summer. So in New York and in LA, we got the sister franchises, essentially, for lack of a better term, the Mets. That's the Brooklyn Nets. They're basically the Mets to the Yankees. Except the Knicks ain't really the Yankees because the Yankees actually win and the Knicks don't. But that's beside the point. I'm talking about Brandon here. Branding. You have a situation where there's 2 stepsisters or stepchildren in the 2 largest markets in the United States of America are threatening to be number 1.
The Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on the Stephen A. Smith Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, and you can always get in touch with the show through the 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed.
Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. We're coming to you live from above the Heineken River Deck at Pier 17, South Street Seaport. Also, need seats to a game? Download the Vivid Seats app and enter promo code CHAMPS at checkout to get 10% off your first order. Don't buy just any seat. Get a Vivid seat. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. I'll get back to the world of sports in terms of what goes on the field and the court of play in a minute, but I want to take a moment to send my deepest condolences to Kevin Durant of the Golden State Warriors and to friends, family members, and loved ones of Cliff Dixon. Cliff Dixon is a really good friend, adopted brother practically of Kevin Durant, former basketball player himself, shot and killed in Atlanta, Georgia, last night celebrating his 32nd birthday. Just turned 32 years old, killed on his birthday in Atlanta. Fox Atlanta reports that the shooting took place in the parking lot of the Little Saigon Strip Mall in Chamblee, Georgia, 15 miles north of Atlanta, around 1 a.m. By the time police arrived at the scene, Dixon was already in critical condition. He was rushed to Grady Memorial Hospital, where he was pronounced dead. Police believe there was a single gunman who took off on foot before authorities arrived. Police searched the crime scene with K-9 units after the shooting. Law enforcement said the investigation has been hindered because many of the security cameras at the mall are not working. Death Cell Lounge nightclub, where the party was held, advertised an appearance from Dixon on their official page. And you know the rest. We don't know who the gunman is. We know that a young man, African-American, 32 years of age, was killed. And my heart goes out to his loved ones, his family, especially somebody like Kevin Durant, because you know how emotional he can be, and that is in a good way, because he cares. And so many times we look at these players and we heap expectations on their shoulders, expecting them to trust, to be open, to be thankful and grateful of the privileged position that they find themselves in because of the money that they're earning, instead of us taking into consideration the fact that they not only worked on their skills to the degree that they did to get them to a point where they could ultimately earn this money by performing professionally, but think about the minefields they had to go through in order to have the peace to focus on their game and to do what it could to get themselves out of certain situations. And even when you're gone, you still got to be able to go home. And sometimes you can't because people want to pull you back into a life that you tried to leave behind. This is the plight of many, many professional athletes that we don't take into consideration. This is the latest example of that. Again, my condolences to Kevin Durant and all the loved ones of Mr. Dixon. God bless you. Hour number 2 up next.